Warning about climate change. According to a new report, experts say that we have until 2030 to avoid catastrophe. It also says if unprecedented changes are not made and made soon, there will be irreversible damage to the planet. The report focuses on what could happen if global
The searing sun turning the earth into a tinderbox, leaving the ground cracked by drought, and the crashing waves of rising seas. But it seems this extreme weather isn't random. A UN report says this is climate change.
Now to a dire warning about climate change.
Cars and homes were washed away.
If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon.
Warnings of impending climate disasters. Growing in urgency.
Heavenly Father,
Global warming is a gradual increase in the overall temperature of the Earth's atmosphere, generally attributed to the greenhouse effect caused by increased levels of carbon dioxide and other pollutions.
What is global warming? What is global warming to you?
Global warming is the increased global temperatures caused by more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, like carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, that are trapping more of the sun's heat around our planet.
How dangerous is it for us humans and our society?
It's a difficult question to answer. Every society around the earth will be affected in different ways, and humanity has come to expect certain things to happen, like when flowers bloom and pollination occurs, or when snow falls and water melts, and for depending on systems later on through different months and timing and seasons. And so as the amount of energy in the atmosphere increases, this is going to shift systems around the world, and things will be much more unpredictable, which generally humanity doesn't do very well with.
Does eating meat or dairy affect climate change?
Yeah, absolutely. Meat contributes a lot of greenhouse gases, not just the cows that burp methane, which is one of those greenhouse gases that I mentioned, but it takes a lot of food and water to be grown in a lot of land to feed that cattle, to produce milk, to produce beef, which has a big impact on the climate. If people just maybe reduce the amount of meat they ate one day a week, meatless Mondays or so, that we could all make a difference to kind of reduce the impact of our consumption of meat on climate change.
Last question, what can we do to stop this?
Well, I don't think we're going to stop it, but we can do a lot to limit its effects, and everybody can do small things in their own lives that will make a big difference collectively. Be aware of how much energy you use, how you get around, what you eat, and the things that you buy, the companies that you support, the politicians that you elect. We can all do a little bit, and individually in our homes and schools and businesses, but we can also demand action from our leaders in government and large companies that are contributing large amounts of impact to this global problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Some causes of global warming are factories, cow farts, human, and cutting trees.
What is the main cause of global warming?
It could be human. It could be other things as well. Earth has natural processes. The Earth has volcanoes. The Earth has some stuff under the Antarctic. The methane ice sheet, or the methane stuff is unfreezing. So there could be a lot of factors other than there could be other factors other than just humans. The sun is a main one. I've heard a scientist, like an MIT scientist, said, you know, like the effect humans have is like the spoke of a wheel in a car, where the sun is like the engine of the car. You know what I mean? So, and the sun has cycles. The sun right now is actually going through a peak of activity compared to, and it has a cycle, like a major cycle every 100 years or so, like that. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff that could be influencing global warming.
Is it true that the sun is like actually coming closer to the Earth?
No, I believe that's stable. I believe that's pretty stable. I think the physics says that. I mean, it does get closer throughout the year, but I don't think, I mean, I would have to look into it, but I believe it's fairly stable, the orbits at least. And I know like the moon, and the moon's like getting further an inch a year, but it's nothing, I don't think it's anything to make a huge effect at this time.
Okay. Would this shorten our life?
Well, it depends, right? If it gets too hot, and you know, the oceans do rise, because a lot of things, you know, they call it the runaway effect, because there's a lot of factors. And, you know, just warming up the air is one thing, but then warming up the oceans is another, because as we've learned in physics, when you warm things up, they have more internal energy, right? They have more energy, and then the fact that the oceans are warmer, there's more energy in the ocean, and that could be cause for more storms, more violent hurricanes, tornadoes, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, if it does continue to heat, it all comes down to energy transformation. And if it comes down to us not being able to grow crops, right? Then we can't feed the animals, then we can't eat, and then we can't live. But so it could definitely shorten our life. I'm not saying it's going to, though, because there's many factors going on. Okay.
Does it spread any disease? If so, how?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, I know warmer climates do allow for bacteria to spread more, like a warmer environment, you know. So I believe in a sense, depending on what it is, or if it's a bacteria or a virus, I don't know. But I think disease definitely could spread, because just the fact that in a warmer environment, they're known to spread faster, at least most of them. So, yeah, I mean, in the end, if it gets warmer, right? If it gets warmer, there's more energy there, and the more energy available, the more likely something is to grow and spread and cause destruction.
What happens to some animals around the world? Have you ever wondered what happens to polar bears, penguins, sea otters, and other animals that live in very cold areas during the global warming? Climate change is heating up the Arctic faster than anywhere else, and sea ice is shrinking 14% per decade. This causes all of the animals' environmental homes to destroy. And another thing, many Arctic animals will slowly start to die of lack of food and cold. If we don't make a change, polar bears and many other Arctic animals will go extinct in any second. In these images, it shows how glaciers are starting to melt by the sun's heat and how animals are dying of food.
Natural fuel such as coal or gas formed in the geological past from the remains of living organisms Overloading our atmosphere with carbon has affected people all over the world, including rising sea levels, increasing wildfires, change of climate drastically, heat waves. Wildfires are harmful because they release huge amount of carbon into the atmosphere, and because the forest no longer exists, they can no longer absorb CO2. On the picture slide, it shows how factories release the carbon and how people are affected by this because of the air and how it pollutes the air and how we have to be careful.
Cow farts. Did you ever think something as weird as cow farts could be destroying the whole planet? How each cow across the world is a living methane ammonia producing machine? Here, you see a cow. Sure, this cow might seem innocent, but the gases it releases into the air are the main factor in global warming. Cows can produce this gas called methane, and humans use methane for light and heat. Methane is produced naturally in the digestive system of cows, and when they fart, it is released into the air. But a deeper look into the effects of this gas, mentioning although CO2 is a primary culprit for global warming, methane gas is 84 times as worse when trapping heat in the atmosphere. It spreads quickly into the atmosphere, creating a more rapid warming effect on the Earth, more than other greenhouse gases. Those cows produces about 70 kilograms to 150 kilograms of methane. In other words, that's about 154.36 pounds, 330.69 pounds of methane. And to make even more specific, this means that there is 153,758,275,200 to 329,486,288,400 pounds of methane released into the air alone.
The greenhouse effect is that greenhouse gases collect into the atmosphere and absorb sunlight and solar radiation that have bounced off the Earth's surface. Normally, this radiation would escape into space, but these pollutants, which can last for years to centuries in the atmosphere, trap the heat and cause the planet to get hotter. That's what's known as a greenhouse effect. Certain gases in the atmosphere resemble glass in a greenhouse, allowing sunlight to pass into the greenhouse but blocking Earth's heat from escaping into space. The gases that contribute to the greenhouse effect include water vapor, CO2, and CFCs. Some solutions are to reduce emissions. We must significantly reduce the heat-trapping emissions we are putting into the atmosphere. As individuals, we can help by taking action to reduce our personal carbon emissions. But to fully address the threat of the global warming, we must demand action from our elected leaders. And also to stop deforestation. Tropical deforestation accounts for about 10% of the world's heat-trapping emissions. Reducing tropical deforestation could significantly lower global warming emissions and play an integral role in a comprehensive long-term solution to global warming.
Wait till you see the. No.
That's all, folks.